Hey, Nick. I got it. I was going to say the look on my phone. Hey there, you're here. I told Nick, man, my ears are killing me. I can like feel my heart racing.
Yeah, I wouldn't bring that
Oscar Mayer. So, I got it. John Hopper, he's driving all the way back to Pascagoula to get his stuff. So if he...
It happens from time to time.
I was waiting. I was like, well, that's a terrible ending.
I never walked away. What was that? It's the best place in the world.
I got to put balancing on checkbook at the moment.
She said, so is he.
Yeah. You don't want her to have the new codes when you need them.
He must be late.
Hey there.
All right,
I missed you guys this year. Maybe next year, right? Yeah, there's so many things I just have to learn without getting to talk with y'all.
Very comfortable.
Are y'all going to go to the CPA thing or no?
It's a nice color.
It is online or whatever?
It looks good with y'all's dark hair. It's the dark hair.
Not with my light hair. I got municipal league Monday for 3 days.
So anyway, Mom had to go and check her. She's back at home.
It's also the
If we're not tonight.
Well, sure. And if they want to mask up, we want them to mask up. Yeah, that's good.
Situated.
Yeah, I was charged about that. Okay.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let the record show that all members of the Board of Aldermen are present. First item on the agenda would be the invocation. Father Mike Snyder will be giving it from St. Alphonsus Catholic Church. And then after that, Alderman Wade will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow our heads and put ourselves in the presence of our God who loves us. Let us pray. Lord God, His blessings reach to the ends of the earth. You show us your love in life and death and resurrection of Jesus, whom we call Savior and Lord. Confirm us in our common faith, that we may walk together with you and one another. Send your blessing upon your people here gathered today, that what we have begun in the spirit of true love for one another may be brought to completion by your power. We give glory and honor to your name, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless your meeting. Thank you for asking for prayer. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to accept
accept the agenda and the addendum?
Well, we've got, we're also going to remove item 6B from the agenda. So with that, we have a motion.
Second.
A second, Mr. Blackman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, presentation part of the agenda. Alexander Van Loon is here to discuss the audit.
So I'm Kim Marmelich. I'm the partner of AVL's Audit and Assurance Department, and with me today is Deborah Aiken. She's our Director of Audit Assurance, and also Maria Saylor, our Senior Auditor. They worked on your job. I just want to mention that Deborah usually participates in the presentation, but she had an eye procedure done today, so I'm going to be taking care of the presentation for her. Before I get started, I just want to mention something to you. This is our #1 deliverable, and this is thick. And I'm not even going to barely scratch the surface of this report. There's not time, and it just would be too much. So I want to offer, since you are starting your new term, if you're interested in a workshop where we could dig a little deeper into this report, the audit process, and the internal controls that are necessary, I'd be willing, and Deborah would be willing, to invest some time with you to do that, to help you be more informed about the audit process and understand these financial statements. But for now, I'm just going to move through rather quickly and talk about this report. You get 3 deliverables from us when we do an audit. One is our letter to those charged with governance. It's a standard letter of required communication, and it basically outlines our responsibility as your auditor and your responsibility as an auditee. The journal entries we proposed are also attached. Then we have the financial report, which we'll talk about, and then have one more deliverable, which we'll discuss at the end of the presentation, which is our recommendation to management. These financial statements, those are 9/30/2020. They are historical in nature and are no reflection on the current fiscal year. You received an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can offer. Also on pages 5 through 10, your management prepares a management discussion and analysis, and it's a condensed discussion of these financial statements, as well as the economic outlook of the city. So if you wanted to read one thing, I would point you there first. The Governmental Auditing Standards Board is who tells us how we have to draft these financial statements. And in this bound report, you have 2 complete sets. One set is called a government-wide, which is showing your city as if you were a business and recorded all liabilities, all assets. Then we also have a second set within the report, which is your fund level financial statements, which is more on an economic resources measurement basis. And it's more like what you look at every month when you're looking at your budget to actual and you're managing the city. So I'm going to go very quickly through these next 3 slides. I just want to point out that this is the government-wide. This is all assets, all liabilities. It also shows that you have 2 activities in the city. One is government activities and one are business type, which is your water and sewer. The main difference in these next 3 pages compared to the fund level is that we record all assets of the city, and we also record the city's share of the unfunded PERS liability. That's the biggest differences. So where I want to focus our time on is your fund level financial statements. The city has 18 governmental funds, and 3 of those are what we call major. Those 3 are your general fund, your food and beverage fund, tax fund, and your general obligation fund for debt service. I went too far. Way too far, sorry. I'll get back now. So on this page of the slide 13, you'll see all assets of the general fund, and on the next page, and other governmental funds, and on the next page, you'll see the liabilities of the governmental fund. I'm only going to talk about general fund because general fund is the main fund that you use to service the city. So we'll look at just that fund in a minute, but I did want to point out on this slide, you'll see that you ended the year with $4 million in unassigned net assets, which is about 3.5 months of expenditure. So you started fiscal year 2021 with $4 million in net assets. If we look at the general fund and we compare it to 2019, I'm on page 14 of this slide, you'll see that there's not a lot of change in comparison except for cash went up $1.2 million, which also increased the reserves that are unassigned and can be used for fiscal year 2021 by almost the same amount. On page 15 of this slide, we're going to look at all of the governmental funds. Revenue and expenses are shown here. Total revenues $17 million for all governmental funds, and expenditures were $16 million, ending the year with a $1.1 million excess of revenues over expenses. If we look at just the general fund and see how we compare to the prior year, on slide 19, you'll see that the biggest changes are sales tax was actually up $200,000 compared to 2019. Your intergovernmental revenues were down $122,000, and that's because in 2019 you had some funding from the supervisors, and you didn't have that same funding in 2020. And then if you look at grants, you'll see that grants were down $500,000 in comparison to 2019. I want to stop and mention here that 2020 was our first COVID year. And like with anything, there were pros and cons to it. But one of the things that we're hearing in every governmental training that we go through is that there's going to be a lot of federal money coming and available. So one that comes to mind is that there's the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery fund that's out there. I don't know if you've looked into that, but that's something that you need to be looking into, are these grants that are going to surface as part of COVID. So when I see this down, it just makes me think that you have some opportunity to look for more grant funds. And then your charges for services were down $284,000, and that's because COVID limited recreational fees because everybody couldn't get out and do what they're always doing. When we look at expenditures, public safety is really the only expenditure that went up, $237,000. You had more grant funding and you had to match some of that, so that explains the increase. And then you see that your capital outlay decreased $201,000, and that was probably because most capital outlays paid by grants and your grants were down. So I'm not going to talk any more about the general fund. Not a lot of change there. Then, as I mentioned earlier, you have two activities in the city. You have a governmental fund and you have a proprietary fund, which is your water and sewer fund. So we'll take a quick look at that one to see how you compare to 2019. Cash was up in this fund $687,000 compared to 19. You had some movement in capital assets, and that is mainly related to you completed some construction. You replaced some water meters, so all of that was an increase in expense. And then also, we transferred a excavator and tractor from the general fund and bought a new knuckle bone truck. So those are what represents the increases here that we see in fixed assets. Liabilities are about the same as the prior year, with the exception that because the water and sewer funds operates like a business, you had to pick up the share of the pension liability here, which is $2.7 million of unfunded PERS pension liability. Every governmental entity has to pick this up. Nobody has an obligation to pay it at this time. This is just a governmental standards requirement. And then we also had to record the lease related to the excavator transferred over from the general fund. The debt was moved to the water and sewer fund. If we fast forward to the page 24, you'll see that your services were up compared to the prior year. Your revenue, $785,000. And your contractual services were up also related to an increase in garbage removal and water service contract fees. And then overall, the cash flow, you see an overall increase in cash of $738,000. That's all I'm going to point out on your two main funds of the city. There are some note disclosures that you can look at on your own time, or that we can dig deeper into if you decide you want to do a workshop as a training. Page 27 and 29 details your cash and restricted assets. Page 30 are your tax levies for the last 3 years. 37 is your outstanding liabilities, note 6. And then your budgetary comparison is on page 46 and 47. And then if you want to read the long unfunded PERS liability note, that's on pages 48 and 50. And lastly, on page 54, it discloses surety bonds that are on all of the city officials. We have two other reports that we have to audit to report on. One is we have to test your compliance with state laws. That's page 57, would summarize any results of those procedures. And then also, we give you a yellow book report that's on page, at the end of on page 55 of the audit report. And this is where we look at your internal controls and test compliance with laws. And if we find anything very significant, it'd be reported in here, and we have no findings. We do give management another letter of recommendations of things that we don't consider really significant. It's ways to strengthen the city and the internal controls, and you have a copy of that to read. I'm not going to go through any of those items at this time. And that was all I was going to present. Any questions for me?
Make a few comments. How official this document is, but our city attorney is listed as Douglas Times. I'm not trying to be small, but our attorney is W. Bookers. In your printout on page 1 of this book, you have the wrong city attorney.
What's happening to the report is wrong. Oh, we put the wrong. We don't have you in there.
That's right.
We can take these. This is what we will have to do to correct it. Is I need to pick these up and take them back to the office, and I can have them dropped back off to you with a new page.
To me, I understand, but I'm not trying to nickel down.
The May. Well, this is as of 2020. Was this correct?
Yeah, he's been in for years. That's actually the prosecutor. Yeah.
Have you been?
That's
Okay.
my past. Douglas Times is not involved with the city at all.
Oh.
I think that Monty's name is Douglas, it is, I think so. It is.
We can change it.
We
But
may have gave them the wrong name, because they actually get that from us, so maybe.
We do get it from
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And I wasn't
I'll
gonna mention that we
Well,
get
no,
it from you.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that either me or Kelly did it wrong. It's not something they did. Can we just, do you have to give us another page? Can you just send a page? Does it matter?
Well, I can send you the page, and I can go
Yeah.
back and forward.
He's fine with it. Yeah, right.
The way it is.
Yeah.
I can
just scratch it out. Yeah.
It doesn't matter, scratch it.
Again, that's the first thing I noticed when we got there.
So, no. Sorry, Robert.
I can punch it and send it back, and then, but it's not easy to take these little.
I don't think it's necessary.
I think it'll
y'all.
be fine.
Yeah.
We know.
We know who it is.
Okay.
That's my error.
I shouldn't have brought it up.
That's all right.
I've got a couple
Robert enjoyed it.
bigger questions I would like to ask you. I notice a lot of transfer between activities of like 500,000, 587,000. Is that correct? Can we do that, transferring X number of dollars from one fund to another?
You can. I'm gonna let Deborah take these questions because was more involved in all of that testing.
And I don't think we need to answer that question. But what that is that the general fund does services for the water and sewer fund, and that amount is what is averaged at the cost of providing that service to from the general fund to the water and sewer.
It is okay to do that.
Yes, yes.
There's another fund, I don't want to belabor, but there's another one, it was 547,000 from here besides the jump.
There's
I
another.
can find, I need to ask, this bothers me, and I'll ask one more question, I've got a bunch of questions. Page 29.
Well, that's why I said we'd meet with you, I mean, really,
Just
take us
answer
up.
this one and I'll be happy.
Okay.
On page 20, we have meetings, my dear, that last, we've got meetings there, okay? So, on page 29, I noticed that the receivables that we received, I'm gonna round this off for conversation, $5 million, but we have doubtful receivables of $4 million. What is that all about?
I'm gonna give you my best answer here because of my eyes, I can't read it too well. But most of that is related to court fines and fees that are, you have as much uncollectible every year as you collect in fines and fees.
$4 million per year?
But that's
court-
cumulative, 4 million is cumulative.
Yeah, but 3.8 to 3.8 you see there on the courts. Most of that 3.9 of the allowance is for those court fines and fees.
And let me ask you this, Mr. Everett, does that mean that it didn't collect that, I'm sorry, but the city wouldn't necessarily get to keep all that? Is that just the city's portion of fines and fees, or is that the whole fine and the state would get their portion?
That would be the whole
whatever
fine,
and
the
all?
state would get their portion.
Right.
But this is from inception. So from the time you had to report to the state, your court fines and fees, that's how much it's grown.
So it's always carried forward.
Yeah, the state law, you can never write those off.
About how long have we carried that forward? Any idea?
As long as the city's been in inception.
Yeah.
That's thank you.
And Mr. Keenan, on the other one, this year we broke out, there wouldn't be a transfer. This is the last year you're gonna see the $500,000 transfer, because remember I said payroll and up all down in the enterprise fund. We no longer have that big transfer to general, because now enterprise fund, the salaries that need to be paid and all are paid directly out of the enterprise fund. This is the last year you'll see that.
Even admin pieces?
Yes, ma'am.
You break it out between the funds?
Yes, ma'am.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you're getting as about as exact as you can, aren't you?
Yes, ma'am. Yep.
Is water and sewer an enterprise fund?
Everything's
Yes.
enterprise, water, sewer, garbage are all the enterprise fund. And now we have about a $600,000 budget for the cost for the employees, the computer part, everything that goes along with water and sewer that was part of that $500,000 transfer is now budgeted there where it should be. You won't see that anymore.
And that happens because you now have a really good working accounting system, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, no, we're really getting precise. You'll be
Yeah.
real pleased this year.
Well, not only that, but I've spent a lot of years on the finance committee. Patty has spent probably 25 hours a day for a long time straightening out that budget and putting the funds where they need to be instead of all the back and forth. And those transfers that Ken referenced, like she said, represent the last of getting the funds where they need to be. The budget compared to when I came on 8 years ago is so much more clear and understandable because of the work Patty's done, and thank you, Patty, for that, because
You can't run a city, you can't understand what you
all
do.
that transfer from enterprise to general and then paying it never really made sense to me, and now that she's cleaned it up, it's a lot easier to see where our funds are, and I appreciate all the work that Patty's done. I appreciate y'all's help in helping her get that straightened out, because for years, to be blunt, it was a mess.
So, but you're talking about funds, and Deborah can add to this, you have 18. And you're only required to have the minimum number of funds that you need to operate a city. There's no requirement to have 18 funds. If you think you need 18 funds, that's okay too. And some of them are really small with hardly any activity, but that may be the next thing you want to tackle is streamlining your funds so you don't even have that many. You agree with
That's
that?
how I hide the money. That's how I hide the money.
Just said you give you all this credit.
I know.
But, you know, just to put it in perspective, every fund is like its own business, if you want to look at it from a business mind. It's a complete set of books. So that's running 18 little complete set of books.
Yeah, and we,
Usually
and
those
that-
are grants.
that's really more understandable for them when we break it out. Even this year, all the insurances for the buildings are in each building. It's really getting precise, which is, I think, what he's really saying he really likes.
Yeah.
The rentals are very precise on what the city pays now to what's coming in. But I won't break each building into a fund. I'll behave. Right?
Don't break each building into a fund.
I had a quick question. You had mentioned a grant earlier that you had recommended that we look into, and I didn't catch the name of that.
It's funding. It's not a specific grant. But right now there is, and I checked on that today, and it's called the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund. It comes with a bunch of restrictions. It's actually to help not the city, but all the businesses in the city. It's that type of thing to provide services to help people survive this COVID crisis. And now that we're seeing another spike, there's probably going to be other money out there.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna hand these back to Patty. Any more questions? Thank you so much
Thank you.
for giving us the time. We appreciate it.
Working with you.
Thank you, Miss Deborah, and we sure missed you guys this year.
Next year it'll be good.
Next year, we'll be back on and I can learn more.
Check me off the list.
Okay, the next presentation is,
I'll make the motion, I'll make a motion to accept the audit.
Second.
motion by Ms. Anthony, second by Mr. Alderman. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next presentation is Lucius One, real-time analytics.
Thank you, Mayor. As you guys, most of you all know, we in the last few years at the police department have really upped our game in technology, in solving crime, preventing crime, and tracking down bad guys, to say it rather bluntly. Everything that we've invested in to date, I'd like to put it all together in one operational box, if you will. And Sandy Turnage, who I'm going to introduce to you, with Pillium Corporation, a Mississippi company, has been our provider of our car cameras and our body cameras and the GPS system and the officer down system and everything else that we use for our officer safety on the street. And it seems like a natural fit to have a company like theirs help us bring all of our technology that we use together. And so, Sandy, if you would explain.
Sure, be glad to. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate y'all's time today, and thank you for your business on the in-car and body camera systems. So again, I work with a company called Pillium. We started the company in 2002, based in Jackson. Been doing this a while, and we're essentially an IT integration company, but we got into law enforcement about 5 or 6 years ago and had great success in that industry. So we started out again with a body-worn in-car video, but now we're moving on to a product called Fusus, which is Latin for fusion, which allows a city or a county to set up a real-time command center or a real-time crime center. They call it RTC3. It's cloud-based real-time crime center. So I got just a couple of quick slides that I want to go through to kind of show you what some of this does, and I brought some stuff with me to do some show and tell. But let me just click through a couple of slides. So again, Fusus, they're based in Atlanta, Georgia. Company's been around a while, but they renamed themselves about 2 years ago. You know, took on the Fusus logo and got a huge investment as well in the company. And they are absolutely growing like gangbusters. And I've got a slide that talks a little bit about some of the other agencies that have already implemented the technology. So I'm going to come back to this video just real quick. And so let me fast forward just a little bit. I want to start with this one slide. You should have this in a handout. But it's this one pager, if you will, this one slide kind of summarizes what Fusus can do for an agency. So typically what happens, up across the top of that slide, you have inputs into the system. And of course, the big circle in the middle is that cloud-based component, which resides in something called Amazon Web Services in the GovCloud, so it's CGIS compliant, it's all secure and all that related standards, if you will. Down along the bottom is how we can consume that in information, if you will, as it comes in. So it's primarily about video, but it also pulls in other forms of law enforcement data, whether that's LPR, whether that's your CAD data, your location of your vehicles, all that information. It really kind of pulls it into a dashboard, if you will. So it's an intuitive mount-based interface. You'll see some screenshots in a little bit that allows you to see information, visualize that information, as well as access video sources such as city-owned cameras and even business-owned cameras as well. And that's kind of the secret sauce that Fusus has that no one else has. Where did I put my, oh, right here in front of me, and I never found it. So this little device, when I talk about a Fusus core box, this little device actually gets installed at the school or at the business, and then allows the police department with the obviously the organization's permission to access that video under certain circumstances. And everything's audited, everything's tracked, all that stuff, if you will. So again, complying with CJIS. So again, this little box, it ranges in cost from $200 for about, that'll support up to 4 cameras. This little box is $600 and supports up to like 25 cameras, and then we have some larger units beyond that. So that in a nutshell is kind of what it does. So it allows you to pull all the information in, displays it on one screen, and then not only allows you to see that inside the police department, but it actually be pushed out to the officer via their laptop or via their smartphone or tablet device. So really any internet-connected device can be able to consume that information. Traditionally, a real-time crime center was something that was only available to a very large city because it costs so much money. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases millions of dollars. And what Fusus has done is it's leveraged the power of the cloud and combined that with some edge computing, i.e. this core device, and made it cost-effective even for any agency that wants to do this. And it also has the ability to share information with other agencies that are running the system. For example, Biloxi's already using the system, they're already up and running, they were the first adopters. And then Jackson Police Department also is a customer of ours as well, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. But again, it just allows, the more agencies that sign on, the more powerful the system can become because you can share between those different entities, if you will. Any questions so far? Good deal. All right, I'm going to back up a little bit and show you a couple of quick videos, kind of give you an overview. Would you mind maybe clicking on that?
Yes.
Welcome to Fusus, the industry's first cloud-based, rapidly deployable, real-time crime center. Fusus integrates all major public safety technology investments into a single pane of glass, synthesizing real-time intelligence to enhance first responders' situational awareness and decision-making capabilities. Community-owned cameras are combined with video management software, drones, departmentally issued cell phones, gunshot detection systems, and license plate readers. All this information is integrated with the department's 911 dispatch software via a rules-based engine designed to ensure the real-time crime center lives in the hands of agency crime analysts and its field-based users. Fusus brings intelligence to the field by operationalizing video. Officer locations in relation to a call for service, live video to and from their mobile devices, encrypted chat channels, embedded floor plans, and suspect video sent directly to responding officers contribute to the agency's capacity for critical incident management. Setting up Fusus is fast, requires minimal hardware, and has no activation fees. You simply plug a Fusus core into your existing camera or network, and within seconds, the video feed is analyzed, securely encrypted, and transmitted either by an ongoing live stream or on demand based on an alert. Fusus AI at the Edge technology efficiently analyzes video right at the camera, saving precious moments by delivering an automated media payload based on the call for the shooter event. And the camera itself can be shared based on the priority of the call and associated sharing policy. In an investigation, police can automatically request footage from all nearby businesses at the click of a button. And camera owners can securely share recorded as well as live video feeds to aid in the investigation. Incident video and data is stored in a CJIS-compliant vault for investigators. And additional video evidence is easily collected via a pre-configured camera registry map of all the public and private cameras in your region, along with a multimedia tip line for the public. The Fusus Real-Time Crime Center in the Cloud is a mission-critical hub that enhances the situational awareness and investigative capabilities of law enforcement agencies, keeping officers and community members safer.
Guys, any questions on that video before I make a couple points on it?
So if I'm understanding this right, a business could participate in this, so to speak.
Yes, sir.
And if we got a call from that business, if there was an issue there, they could immediately tap into that camera system and see what was going on en route to the call.
That's exactly right. So the business makes the decision, do I want to share my video with the police department 24/7? Or do I only want to share that video when there's an incident?
Right.
And so there's two ways. One way is there's actually an app that comes with the solution. It's provided free of charge to a business owner, to a school, whoever needs that app. And so you may say as a business owner, when I press the SOS button, and I'm holding my phone up and my screen blanked out on me, I'm sorry. So you could simply press and hold, so it's kind of a virtual panic button. And you can press and hold that for 5 seconds, that's configurable. And then when that happens, it turns your cameras on or activates the police department's access to your cameras. So if you're not comfortable sharing 24/7, you can do event-driven by pressing the panic button, or the next option is to, when there's a CAD call in it, so if you placed a call into the police department and they dispatch someone else, they record the location, so we can also trigger off that as well. So it really comes down to what the business owner or the school is comfortable with.
Whatever the agreement is.
Yes, sir. So I have, for example, our business is, we're down in downtown Jackson, and I've got 3 cameras inside my office, and I share that 24/7 with Jackson Police Department. And what's nice, they like that because one of my camera points actually out my window up Capitol Street. So it gives them some coverage on Capitol Street that otherwise they wouldn't have. And that's kind of the overall goal. Every police department that we're working with, every sheriff's office we're working with, I mean, you can't find enough police officers. And, so this is a force multiplier and lets a person access, really be in multiple places at one time because we can leverage existing security cameras. Other systems like this on the market, but this is the only one that lets you tap into existing security cameras. It works with virtually all existing cameras that are out on the market. Kind of the one notable exception is Ring, because Ring is a closed system. From a technical standpoint, we could do it, but Ring won't allow us to do that. Other questions? Good deal, good deal.
So we're on the NOLA cameras, is that what we have?
Yes, sir.
So this will
Project
be
NOLA.
integrated into this system?
Yes, sir. It would. We're already doing that in Biloxi, so we're doing that. So Fusus is an open platform, and we want to work with anything the police department has, whether that's CAD integration, other camera systems. We want to pull everything together. So guys, I got a couple more quick slides that I can run through. I think we've covered this one already. Just, I wanted to mention some of the other agencies that are working with it. I know I mentioned Biloxi already, which is right next door to you guys, and Jackson Police Department. Minneapolis has been a customer actually for about 2 years, well before all the George Floyd protests broken out. And we even have access, if you're a Vikings fan, which I happen to be a Saints fan, and if you're a Vikings fan, they have all the cameras pulled in from US Bank Stadium there in Minneapolis into the system as well. But State Police in New Hampshire, Jackson Police Department, Winston-Salem, Minneapolis, Honolulu. If anybody wants to do a site visit and go to Honolulu, I'll be glad to go along with you. And we certainly can do that, but you can see tons of other agencies. I mean, we got tons of agencies in Florida as well. That's a small snapshot, if you will, of some of the agencies we're working with already. Most notable on there is Hillsborough County, Florida. That's the county where Tampa is. So the system is scalable that we could, a small department to a large department, you can get that same power, if you will.
And you mentioned that Biloxi was new, but how long has the city of Jackson been working on it?
City of Jackson, we deployed there. I think they purchased in October, and I actually have a slide on the City of Jackson. I'll come back to, here we go. So before Fusus, they had about 90 cameras on November 1st, 2020. And they had planned a 2-year implementation of the real-time command center. So we met them in October, and they had 90 cameras when we started with them. And now today, they have over 1,000 cameras in that system. Now, I'd like, some of those are business cameras, but a lot of those are simply city cameras that they couldn't access because they were on different systems. So, I mean, for example, the bus station, in downtown Jackson, in order to access the cameras at the bus station, somebody had to physically go to the bus station, go in this small little room and look at this small little screen. And so I was able to take one of these little devices and drop in there and pull that video directly into the cloud. So now they just click a button and it pops up on the window. And I've got a screenshot in here. But again, it's extremely cost effective. And you can see some of the things that they've already been able to solve with that solution. So it's, and I know that we've done several tours, and Chief, I don't know if you've been up there, but I mean, I know we've done tours inside the real-time command center in Jackson. And Biloxi's been up and running. They've actually had a small implementation running for about 6 months, and at least, and now they just recently expanded on that.
So way that works, I'm gonna throw a hypothetical out, if we had a crime happen somewhere in the city limits here, and, you know, suspect got away, and we knew a vehicle's description, we could track it from here over the bridge into Biloxi. And
Potentially, assuming that we have camera coverage of that area. And so the more cameras we have participating, you know, obviously the more powerful the system it, you know, becomes. Now, again, you know, typically what we see is there's really kind of three different categories from a business standpoint. There's, you know, there's one set of businesses that are going to do everything they can to help the police department, donate their video. They'll buy this box for the police department so that the police department doesn't have to give it to them. And anything they can do to help, they'll be glad to help. We have the other category is going to be, you know, I want to help the police department, and if they need my video, I'll be glad to send it to them, but I'm not comfortable giving them 24/7 access to my cameras. And for that, we actually have, and I've got a slide on this. Let me see if I can skip forward a little bit. And I apologize for skipping around a little bit. You can see some of the stuff there from Minneapolis. That's US Bank Stadium on the screen there, but you can kind of see that map-based interface in the top right-hand corner. And we're actually able to pull in floor plans and the whole 9 yards and place the cameras kind of where they would be and actually see the field of view as well. But on the camera registry, again, this is free of cost, and there's no cost to the business, and so it comes with the service. So if someone's not comfortable giving the police department access to their cameras 24/7, and they can simply go out to a web interface, drag and drop a pin on a map, give them the email address and the phone number, and to allow that yellow dot to show up so that we know that there's a camera there. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of work in determining, you know, going, if there's a crime inside the city, going and walking the streets and finding out who's got cameras, how to get that video footage, and then pulling that big, obviously a time-consuming process. This automates that because we proactively sign the businesses up, and residents too. We typically start with businesses, get their location of their cameras documented inside the system, and then if the chief needs video, he simply draws a circle around the cameras that he needs, and it'll automatically send them an email requesting information from them for a certain time period. When they drag and drop it, so they go to their system, they pull it in, and they basically, it's like Dropbox, if you ever use that, or, you know, like a Google Drive or something like that. They drag and drop it, and it shows up inside the system. Great questions. Other questions?
Yeah, where does the AI technology fit in?
So the AI, there's several different versions of this core box. So this is the $600 version, which doesn't have, it's a very, very limited AI capability built into it. There's a larger version of it that can do artificial intelligence. And basically what that means is we could take, conceivably, and Chief, I'd have to look at the proposal to see if we got an AI core built into this thing. But we can take cameras up and down I-90, for example, and we could feed those into an AI core box and say, show me every red car or white truck or blue van, you know, or motorcycle that's went through here in a certain time period. And it's not doing facial recognition or anything like that, but it's recognizing objects. And those objects might be a car, might be a bicycle, might be a person with a backpack. And so, but we can take a feed from virtually any camera, feed it into this special version of the core box, and be able to give you AI searches on that. We're about to do that with Louisiana State Police.
You can do that with license plates, right?
Well, it's really not meant to be a license plate reader. It's so there's other technologies that the department already has that does LPR. Okay. And so this is really about recognizing a physical object, you know, and maybe the color of that object. For example, a person, it can recognize if they're wearing a white shirt and blue pants, or vice versa. And so it's really not about license plates or anything like that. Now, Fusus will pull in, the department already has LPR technology, it's going to interface with that and pull that information in and give you that single pane of glass.
The businesses will have cameras, obviously. The cameras belong to businesses, individuals, things of that nature. The core box will belong to us or the police department.
It depends. I've seen agencies do it both ways. I've seen agencies that will, St. Cloud, Florida, for example, the police department actually will buy the core boxes and they donate it to the business. Now, part of the reason they do that is because they don't want to own the video or anything on it. It's just they donate the core box to them so that they can access the video stream when they need to, and then when something occurs, they pull out a clip out of that video stream and store it into the cloud, and then it becomes their video. I've had other agencies that kind of take a different approach, and you know, the business buys and have that on site as well. So it really kind of, it's just determined now by what approach the agency wants to take with the business.
Do you need a core box for each camera? Is that what
you need a core box for each location.
Each location? No,
yes,
that circle you're talking about of a block.
Yes, so if I go back, let me see if I can show you. So let's take, for example, a school. Well, let's take the US Bank Stadium. So there's 550 cameras in there, so we actually have 12 devices that are serving 550 cameras in that location, but they're not recording. So there's a little bit of a, if you want to record, it changes the math equation just a little bit. But typically what we see is that for a given location, you will have one or maybe a couple of core boxes to be able to pull those cameras in. Now again, if it's a small business, maybe 4 cameras, something like that, a little $200 device, drop that in there, we can pull those cameras in. By the way, we don't have to pull in every camera they have. So maybe the business just wants to share their external cameras, with the police department. It's completely up to them. They do not have to share everything. So they can pick and choose what cameras they'd like to donate video to the police department on.
Going on top of what Ross said in this scenario, so there's a crime that occurs wherever, and there happens to be citizens there that are witnessing it, they can download the app and record and send in their video as well from their phone?
Well, so they can certainly record the video on their app just like anybody can today. And the system does come with a tips line that allows you to text that video or photo information into the police department. Some of our agencies actually use this with dispatch. So let's say that there's a resident that has a suspicious character outside their, in their neighborhood, walking around their neighborhood. So if the citizen can safely snap a snapshot of that person, then they can text that into the tips line and it pops up in dispatch, and then we'd have that, and we could actually turn that around and send it out to the officers in the field via the app that's on the officer's phone.
So citizen involvement is absolutely doable.
I'm sorry?
Citizen involvement is absolutely a plus in this.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, extremely beneficial, and we want the business community. We typically start with the business community, and then of course move on to the residents. But yeah, absolutely. But it's a great form of community policing. It's a great way to engage as well.
What would the chief, what would we need at the police department to receive this signal from your core box? What do you do there at the police department?
It's all cloud-based.
So
there's no hardware for us.
Just good internet connectivity is really the only thing that we need. So with it being cloud, that's one of the benefits of being cloud-based. We don't have to do servers and storage and backups and all the other stuff. Great question. Yes, I feel like we got a good overview. I do have maybe one more video I can show you from West Palm Beach, kind of how they've implemented, if you're interested in that, or if you've got enough information. Was y'all interested in seeing that? I hadn't put you to sleep yet, have I? All right, let me back up a little bit. This slide just shows a number of the integrations. Oops, I skipped right over it. But again, anyway, I'm going to skip the slide. Let me go back to the video. But again, it's just saying it's an open platform. We want to work with everybody that we can. Bear with me, guys. I'm having to. Here we go. Can you start that for me, Megan, please?
The West Palm Beach Police Department's Real-Time Crime Center is adding a new feature to help keep the city safe. Fuse's technology will allow dispatchers in the center to quickly send live and recorded video of possible crime scenes to responding officers so they can see what's going on before they even get there.
The video is being sent to a cloud-based server that we can then access directly either from in the center or from the patrol cars or from a mobile device.
Video is captured by city-owned cameras located around West Palm Beach, as well as by cameras owned by businesses and residents. It's all monitored here in the Real-Time Crime Center at police headquarters downtown.
There you go.
Business cameras used by police have been registered with the department, with video used only on request when a crime is being investigated. Fuses takes that process a step further, allowing police to access live video more quickly, immediately tapping into a camera and then sending the video into the field via the cloud where responding officers can view it. Businesses that sign up to participate in Fuses will receive a device to connect their security cameras to the Real-Time Crime Center at the police station.
We can bring in their existing security cameras into the center by adding a small computer to their system, to their network system.
There is an option that allows camera owners to control exactly when their live video is shared, manually connecting to the police only in emergency situations. Right now, police are asking businesses only to sign up for Fuses, which requires payment of a fee. However, both residents and businesses can still register their cameras for free with the Real-Time Crime Center for more limited usage to help police solve crimes. To register your cameras, just visit wpv.registry.cam. This is Cheryl Kahn reporting for WPV TV.
Hey guys, we build all the back end on that, all the camera registry, all that's kind of baked into the solution. One final thing, unless you guys have some more questions, the proposal includes a 30-day pilot at no cost. So basically, the chief would have 30 days to try everything out, make sure it works to his satisfaction. If he's not happy, then we pull it out and go forward. We've never actually had anybody pull it out. And so, again, we'd love to have a chance to work with you guys on this as well. Other questions?
So you're just telling me the cost to us is just the cost to buy the Fuses boxes?
No, sir, it's actually the service. So when you buy that, it's a subscription service.
I didn't bring it up, I apologize.
You didn't bring that on the
I
price?
didn't bring the price.
I'm usually the money person. I was being nice tonight, Bobby. You take it.
I think the proposal that we have in front of you guys right now is 25 grand a year, if I remember correctly. It's a recurring service, and it pays for, it's basically, since it's a cloud service, so that essentially pays for the service, and we include X number of the core boxes with that. And I'd have to look at the proposal to get specifically about how many boxes that is.
It's quite a
Yeah, I just couldn't remember the number off the top of my head, but we can certainly get you that information. I apologize, I didn't have it with me today.
And Chief, would this replace anything we have now?
No.
Would that be
It's
possible?
additional to.
Well, no, I'm saying there's other services
The one thing
that
it
might
will
be
replace
duplicated.
is the relay app.
Okay.
That's $5,000
Yeah.
a year. Everything up till now has been paid for out of C's funds. And the relay app, we tried it, and I like this particular app better because there's a lot more that can be done with it.
So Mark had paid for the relay app out of seizures this year, and it's like $5,400, and it's supposed to be 2 more years, but I guess that could go away if this comes in.
That's correct.
So we're trying not to duplicate services now.
Well, that's what I was kind of referring to, the NOLA cameras also. We have, several of those in the city now. Those would integrate with those.
It will. It'll interface with it, so all that will be pulled right in and be part of that dashboard. Your existing LPRs will be pulled in as well. I think you've got 2 different LPRs. I know one integration is already built today, and the other one's in process. On the body cam side, the vehicle information, we already pulled that in, and they're working on the body cam side as far as interfacing that. I don't have a date on the actual body cam, when it actually be pulled in, but the car's already there today.
Chief, you gotta get the proposal.
Yes, sir, I'll get it out to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is agenda public comment. If you're here to comment on any item on the agenda, this is the time you can do so. We will allow each person to comment a total of 3 minutes for a maximum of 30 minutes. Only 2 people can comment on either side or one side of the agenda, and 2 people on the other side of the item on the agenda. So if you're here to make a public comment about any item on the agenda, now is the time to do so. Okay. Move on to old business. We have discussed some water sewer adjustment on 420 Martin Avenue.
I'm Pat Sheehan. I'm the owner of 420 Martin Avenue. I've owned that house since 1983. I had a water leak. A rat chewed through a water line in a wall. Now, believe it or not, old houses have rats once in a while. And as soon as the plumber got finished, I went in pest control to come in and try to abate that problem. But I didn't understand the problem was that great at the time. On the 23rd of May, I came home from work about 7 o'clock, and my Oriental rug in the dining room was soaked, and water was pouring through the ceiling. I don't have sheetrock ceilings there. It's an old house, and it's got board ceilings, but water was just leaking through the boards. I called Danny Holland, plumber who's worked on the house before, and had him come to fix it. He had to cut into a wall and found a plumbing leak that apparently had been running down the wall. And I was, at first I knew there was any real problem. So I got my water bill. It was usually about $70 or $80. It was over $1,000. And I'll take the responsibility for the water that leaked out, but I'd like you guys to forgive me on the sewer part of it, because that water was running down the wall. Apparently it ran down the wall through an exterior wall for quite some time, about 5 weeks, according to the material I've seen that the water department supplied, and it wasn't noticed. Now there was a note. Danny also did something with the commode upstairs. I had whoever plumbed that upstairs after Katrina apparently put hot water in the commode, and I had asked him to take a look at that. And I had the commode turned off because I'm living by myself in a 2-story house. I don't go upstairs once every couple of months usually, so I had the commode turned off upstairs. But I asked Danny to take a look at it while he was there. And the only reason I did is because it wasn't worth having a separate plumbing call on. And he looked at it and said, I can't fix that, the hot water problem, without tearing out another wall. And I said, well, don't worry about it. But he did note on his invoice that he fixed a flapper valve or a chain or something on it that he saw was defective. But I think your water department called Danny after I came and asked to have the sewage portion abated, and he told them that the commode was off upstairs when he arrived there. It had been off for several months. I keep it on. I'd ask you guys to. There's about $680 worth of sewer bill on that bill that asked that to be abated.
Megan said they did talk to the plumber, and the plumber did say the toilet had been off, and he just went ahead and did that because, like he said, he was there doing work for him. So he went ahead and replaced the flapper, but that had not been having water in it.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that, I'll make a motion that we forgive the sewer portion of the water, adjust that for 420 Martin Avenue because it did not go into the sewer. Second.
Finding that they didn't receive the benefit of the utility.
Correct.
For unforeseen circumstances. Perfect.
Motion by Mr. Bond, second by Mr. Blake. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you for coming, explaining so.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business, Mr. Locker.
Yep, you just come here.
Health insurance renewal.
Right, I was bad. I didn't get to meet all of you at the swearing-in ceremony a week or so ago. So for those that don't know me, I'm John Lockard with Lockard Williams Insurance. We handle the city's, a lot of the city's health insurance and a couple other benefits here. This is just the preliminary renewal. We just got the renewal in on Friday. Sent it to Mindy, and since then I've already got it down some, but let me kind of go through the presentation with what I've got. And I'm going to go through this pretty quick because this is just the preliminary renewal. On the first one, after it says medical renewal, on that first page, for those that are new on the board, I kind of wanted to briefly explain this real quick. It says the City of Ocean Springs, October 1st, 2020. This was the United Healthcare medical plan that the city has, along with the medical deductible reimbursement program. We told the city 4 or 5 years ago there was a way to save money in what we call split funded.
That's where we increased the deductible under United Healthcare or Blue Cross. It was Blue Cross at the time. But we increased that deductible from $1,000 to $5,000. That created a big savings back to the city. So what the city does is they take that money, instead of paying Blue Cross or United, they put that money aside in their own account here in the city. And then Lockard & Williams is a third-party administrator. We process the claim, so we reimburse the employees. By the middle of the page, you'll see the City of Ocean Springs deductible reimbursement. We tell the employees of that $5,000 deductible, the employee pays the first $1,000. The remaining $4,000 of that deductible is reimbursed by technically the City of Ocean Springs, but through Lockard & Williams. So we've been doing that 4 or 5 years. That has worked very well. We've got about 60 or 70 different groups that do this. Luckily, so far, every group we have makes money on this every single year. So it's a way to retain the premium yourself instead of paying it to these insurance companies. If you'll turn the page, this is what we call a profit and loss on the split funding policy I'm talking about. You can see there October of 2020 going down to June. The total funding there, these are the premiums that you would normally pay to the insurance company. Instead, these are the monies you're holding in reserve to pay those $4,000 of claims for on the employee's behalf. So you can see the head count changes, so the total funding changes by that head count. The city is basically funding $65 per employee per month, putting that money aside to pay for that deductible reimbursement program. Fixed costs is normally our admin fee that we charge to process the claims. We're not charging the city anything at this point, so there's no fixed cost. The next column is your medical claims. You can see they vary from a low of $608 to a high of $6,400, almost $6,500. The far right is either the profit or loss for the month. You can see you've had a profit during the past 9 months. You've had a profit every single month. But if you look at the top number on the far upper right side, $229,000, these are profits you've had from the 3 or 4 years prior to this year. So now you've saved the $229,000 from the prior year. So far this year, you've saved another $61,000. So your total savings is about $290,000 from implementing a split-funded plan. So we told y'all 4 or 5 years ago that's what you should have done. That's what y'all have done, and it has worked for you, and it's continued to work for you. So I just wanted to point out that don't panic when you see a $5,000 deductible, because the employee really only has a $1,000 deductible. But this is reserves the city has maintained rather than paying it as profit to the insurance companies. Okay, the next page, and I apologize, I'm trying to run through this quick, but slow me down if it's going too fast.
Yeah, I want to say to them that when we first did this, we saved about $180,000 with paying Blue Cross, and I mean that was just the savings for that next year. Then we started moving the money aside, and we have took out sometimes the increases. So today I would say that account probably has about $135,000 in it.
Yes,
to give y'all an idea of where we are on our side.
And I think they've also, correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, I think also the city has used some of that money for wellness programs and the other things that we've implemented.
The YMCA.
The YMCA. So y'all are using that money on other purposes, which is great. It's benefiting the employees. So that's what we're doing. We're saving you money so you can then turn around and either reduce rate increases and or give other benefits. So that's what I mean by it's working very well. This page that I'm showing you here, the premium versus claims, this is from United Healthcare. This shows you from May of 2020, they go back 12 months through April of 2021. It shows you the member count, the subscribers, the premiums. You see your medical premiums there about the middle of the page, your pharmacy bills, your total medical payments, that's medical and RX. So you look at the premiums paid in versus the claims paid out, and you're about an 86.6% loss ratio. Insurance companies like you to be about 75%. If you're at 75%, you're probably looking at a flat renewal, but you're at 86, almost 87%. So we knew going in you're going to get some type of increase because of medical inflation, especially prescription drug inflation. We knew a rate increase was coming based on your losses for the past year. The next page is the actual renewal that we got in today. Option 1 is your current plan, which is the first column going down the left side of the page. The middle column is option 2, that's a different option. If you look down toward the bottom of those boxes, you can see the current one has a 7% increase. Option 2 has a 5.8% increase. Friday, when we got this, it was 10% increase. So just between Friday and today, we've already reduced it down to 5.8%, and that's the plan we're recommending. But while that's 5.8%, you certainly have that money set aside in your split funding profit that we just spoke about. But we're not satisfied, neither should you, the city, be satisfied with the 5.8% rate increase. So we are shopping it with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We're shopping it with Aetna. We're shopping it with Cigna. And we're also going to look at, as we have in the past couple of years, a self-funded option. Is there a way you can do this self-insured and do the whole thing self-insured with reinsurance in place to limit your risk, just like you're doing with split funding? That's our ultimate goal. If we can get there and make it profitable to the city, then you can save more than what we're showing you now. But we've got to feel comfortable, you've got to feel comfortable with the numbers getting there. So we are shopping self-funded this year, as well as Blue Cross, Aetna, and Cigna. If those rates come back more favorable than the 5.8%, well, then we use those numbers to go back against United to say you got to lower your rates. We go back and forth with these carriers, playing them against each other to try to do the best we can to hold this rate increase as low as we can. Hopefully, we'd like to see 0. If Blue Cross comes in competitive or somebody else comes in competitive, who knows, we might save 1 or 2% over your current rates. We won't know that because this process just started. We just got the rate increase in. We just sent Mindy a form to sign that authorizes United Healthcare to release some additional claims experience so we can give to Blue Cross and we can look at self-funded to see if it's an option for you or not. So again, I say this is the preliminary renewal because we still have a lot of work on our end to negotiate these rates down as low as we can.
John, when will you know if self-funded is going to be beneficial?
Normally, when we get the claim experience, and that all hinges on what claim experience we can get from United. But United and Blue Cross, they hate giving us that information because they know we can use it against them. But as soon as we get that, Mindy's already signed the form for us. We've got to send that off. Hopefully in a week we'll get some information back. Once I get that back, it takes me about 10 days. Now y'all already have open enrollment scheduled for the 24th, 25th, and 26th. So I don't have much time. So I'm going to be moving as quick as I can. So I'm hoping in possibly 2 weeks I can be back saying, here's what we recommend y'all do. At this point, this is just a renewal from your carrier. I'm not making any recommendations today because I hadn't seen the other numbers.
So practically in 2 weeks is what you're saying is you can come back and show us the options we have on the table plus self-funded as an option.
That's a little bit aggressive, but that's my plans.
Okay. And as of right now, it looks like the worst is $75,000 increase.
Correct. And Mindy has worked up the next sheet that has a lot of numbers, and that's where you're getting the 75,000 from. But I'll let Mindy discuss her sheet.
My sheet includes the current cost, which is the first section, and then this renewal increase, which is the second section. And the renewal came out at 5.8%, which was much better than we had expected. So I plugged those numbers. It came in at a total increase of $75,000.57.
Just keep working.
Yep, yep. So because open enrollment is scheduled toward the end of August, we're hoping we can get this turned around at the next board meeting.
So how do we fall with this 5.8% increase? How do we fall with the scheme around?
Well, you know, at first with COVID hitting and that reduced the amount of people going to have elective surgeries and even going to doctor's offices, everybody kind of held back. So most of last year we expected to see a better year because of the less visits to the providers. But you still ended up hitting 86%. So what we're seeing at 5%, my gut tells me that's a pretty fair renewal because I'm getting other groups that are renewing 25, 35%. And of course, theirs is a little bit higher than 86%, but I'm seeing some ugly renewals out there, and it's not getting any better. And that's why, and Rob keeps asking this for the last couple of years, that's why he's interested in looking at a self-insured policy, because you can then take control of your plan. You have all the data and the history from your plan. You can know what to do with it. Right now, we only can do with what Blue Cross United gives us, and that's very limited. We need to know the health conditions. If they tell us it's heart and it's $86,000 claim, is it over with? Is the person even employed here anymore? I mean, they tell us such little information that it makes it hard to negotiate something competitive. So if we can ever get you self-insured, normally when we get a group self-insured, they never go back because self-insured is typically cheaper than your fully insured policies.
And that's been our intent since starting that split funding.
Correct.
Before that, this started 10 years ago when I was an employee here, we started the discussion, so.
Yeah.
I really wait to see those numbers.
Yeah. That's where we want to ultimately.
Maybe there.
Yeah, that's where ultimately that's where we want to be. It's just sometimes it's hard to get there. If you ever have a year where we're 65% loss ratio, we'll jump all over that. But we are where we are, and I'm going to do what I can for you the next 2 weeks and see what we can do.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on new business is discuss Code Red emergency alert system.
Yes.
Thank you.
I am trying to keep up with the police department. They're getting very technologically advanced. So here is the push from the mayor's office. Like 6 months into my job, Charlene told me that I was the POI. And I'm like, what is a POI? And she's like, oh, well, you're the point of contact for everybody. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. Well, since then, sometimes the point of information contact becomes the biggest part of my job, is getting information out there. And when we had the boil water notice for that 72 hours there, our office, and I'm sure yours did as well, exploded. I cannot tell you how many calls, how many messages, how much time was put into this. And so we had some great things come out of it. People highly suggested that they would love to get text messages. They would love to get phone calls. So we looked into it, and I found a system called Code Red, which is what City of Jackson uses and Biloxi uses. And they have amazing features. We can text a cell phone, we can leave a message on a cell phone, we can leave a message on a landline, and we can do emails all basically with one click. I can do it, I can control it, I can give access to anyone can do it. Some of the really good features of it is in the event of a hurricane or a tornado or a storm, it automatically connects with the National Weather Center and NOAA to send out alerts based on somebody's location. So it's not going to send a blanket out to the zip code, it's not going to do anything. It's going to say, they said it's going to hit this specific area, and if we have anyone registered in that specific area, it will automatically push it to it. So during storm season, it'll be a little bit less work on our office because we will have this automatic system doing it. For public works, it'll come in really handy if there is 2 streets that is going to get affected. If it's a cul-de-sac and they're the only ones that are going to get affected, we can pinpoint down to within 5 feet of a house address. And if we have their information, we can send it to them. They have a ton of features. It is something that we can use internally. I can have Chief McCoy just send it to his firefighters. Hey, you guys, can y'all work this weekend? Reply back. And that's another thing that they have is we can set it up to where I can have people reply. So if I'm sending it to 20 people for public works, we can send a follow-up the next day. Has your water issue been cleared? And they can reply, yes it has, no it hasn't. And we store all of that data. So it's very, very good system. It would be very beneficial for every single one of us to have. It has 2 ways to get people's information. There is an opt-in system, which is what most cities have used at this point. It's what Biloxi uses, which I put the information out there, you text a number, you automatically get signed up. You can create an account and you can go in there and you can say, I only want water notices, I only want emergency notices. There's so many different things. People can just register if they just want events on, if they just want messages on events, if we're gonna have road closures and things like that. So it's an opt-in where people have to sign up for it. The second one is an opt-out, which they will use a national database of all information for whatever I give them. If I give them a zip code, if I give them a geolocation, and they will input everything and everybody is automatically entered into it. So this is gonna be close to the same system that you're getting spam calls from. They will take all of those numbers and input them in, and people will have to opt out of them. So that's the two ways that we can get people registered.
I think the opt-in is the better, having spoke with you earlier and thinking about that. Yeah, because you're gonna have most people not signing up, not knowing what's going on, and deleting it, you know, as spam or blocking it. So I think the opt-in is the best thing. That way people can go in and customize it, it sounds like, too, for the alerts they want to get.
Correct.
Where in the opt-out, I don't believe they'll even have that option, will they?
No, so the opt-out would push everything to them.
Everything, right.
So in that instance, we probably wouldn't push out Peter Anderson Festival this weekend and things like that. We would just use it for emergencies. The thing about the opt-out is it will do its best to decipher if it is a home line or a cell phone, but there's no guarantee on that because it's getting the information from the general public. So however, I mean, I've never put a home phone on anything anymore, so my cell number's in that line. So that's just another thing to think about. Biloxi does an opt-in. City of Jackson did an opt-in.
I am concerned that you're gonna leave out a whole group of people that opt in. I don't, personally, I will never opt in, and I'm 59 years old. So if I won't do it, how many people that are 62 and 70, I mean, really, I'm afraid you're gonna leave out an entire group. I would much rather make the public opt out.
I think they're gonna, I think the ones that want it will sign in, will opt in.
I don't think they'll ever know about it.
Well,
We
I
can
have a
information.
question. How are we going to, I see where you're going with this, and I do agree, and I agree with Rob though as well, because people get very tired of the spam, and they would inadvertently just dismiss it. So the opt-in is a good feature. But you did mention something about landlines. So the way to opt in, if I heard you correctly, was via text.
There's several different ways to opt in. That's the most readily available one. So we will also have on all our social media platforms, on our website. It can be really short. We could put it at the bottom of a water bill. Go here and sign up.
Right.
Correct. And so if you only have a landline, you can sign up. I mean, if somebody only has a landline and they have no internet, they can call me and I'll just sign them up. I mean, I help people find phone numbers all the time. I help people find doctor's addresses. You get the most random stuff. So if there's somebody from the villa and they can't figure it out, they can come down and I'll set that for them. That way they'll get a voice recorded message on it. There's several ways I'm going to push out the information. We can also, I was thinking to your note, we can put an ad in the newspaper. That way people can see it. I also know the person that does the coffee news, so we could get it in the little coffee news that's at all the local restaurants to try and hit them.
So on the water side, we were going to send a mail out in this next bill to everyone in your home. But being that we're looking at this now, we've decided to hold a little bit to see what all kind of information we're going to be able to move over from this system just to enter into water, because the mail out will be about $1,100. And people that don't open their bills won't see it anyway. So we're gonna hold on the water part to see what all's gonna come about with this process, just kind of let y'all know.
So is this a yearly contract?
Yes, so the emergency use only is $4,900 for the year. It's unlimited subscribers, unlimited messages that I can send, unlimited emails, unlimited voicemails. We can do as little or as much as we want with the system.
Another thing where I think this is going to be handy, and I think I talked to the chief about it, is if we have another storm and we have the big trucks in here, now we're already planning to have maps and color code where they can go, where have they been. Well, now we'll be able to send something to this neighborhood and say the big trucks will be in your area tomorrow. This is what you should have out by the road. So I think this is going to be some communication if we have another big debris event. I hope it's going to be anyway, to make sure we're getting all the neighborhoods.
I hope it's not, because I hope we don't have another.
But we need a way to make sure that we're where we need to be.
So we're looking at the fully unlimited?
I think we need to look at the unlimited and non-emergency use.
Yeah, we do so much in the city. It would be nice to have that option as well.
You know, looking at, I did $1,134 difference.
So is it fully unlimited? That's what we're looking at?
Yeah, so everything from.
Non-emergency. Communications in this town is, in my experience, we just don't do a very good job of communicating with the public out there. That's my complaint. I don't know, I hear it on, I don't know this, what are you doing? I think this is a great step forward. We're moving into a better age. We need to go with this form of communications, and I support this. Communicate with
Thank you.
citizens.
It's gonna be,
So,
it's gonna be very inexpensive to do.
Yes,
With the
it's
amount
price.
of coverage you're gonna get.
Let me tell you, at 7,000, I rounded off, I did that, $7,000 to communicate with everybody in the city for a year. That's cheap as hell. You can't get it.
Do we need a motion on this tonight, or just consumption?
Yes.
It's over 5,000, so yes, I would like a motion.
Motion if anybody.
It's a service.
And we had a second quote also.
Correct. So I did reach out because I thought, I was like, well, you know, it's over 5,000. Let me go ahead and reach out. So I reached out to actually 2 other places, and the cheapest one of the 2 was $36,000 a year. Similar services, similar everything. They had a little bit. They had more of a niche. Theirs was more storm related, but it's nothing that we need. This Code Red program would be
And it's
very
a
beneficial.
It's a professional service.
Correct.
You don't really have to have that, but, and I do have it in your budget amendments. It's in there.
I'm gonna make a motion that we move forward with, allowing Megan to hammer out this contract with Code Red.
Second.
Say the emergency.
Emergency.
The unlimited emergency and non-emergency use
Second.
option.
Thank you.
Who seconded?
Jennifer second.
Yeah, y'all need to let her know if you want it to,
Oh
want
yeah,
people to
option or
opt in or out.
opt
She's gonna need to know that.
Opt-in.
Why don't we let,
I'll never have to. I'll never opt
why don't
in.
we let Megan,
I'll opt in for you.
I kinda like opt out.
I'm the one that would delete it, but
I think opt out.
Opt-in.
The only, I was thinking opt-in only because we get blown up in our office over privacy issues. I don't know how many times I call the Public Service Commission to see exactly how many feet this person can be on your property to install a utility. I don't know, I have the Public Service Commission's attorney now on speed dial because I call him. How many feet can this be? I get pictures all the time of one of your workers was in my yard. I think that's illegal. I think we will run into a big privacy thing, and I think our office will get blown up with how did you get my number? Why are you getting me these? How do I get out of this? Biloxi has like 30,000 people signed up for theirs. That's opt-in only.
Mr. Tan, would you opt in? Are you gonna be able to work the system?
He can stop by the office and I'll sign it up.
I mean, they're gonna get me in. Well, they're telling me they're gonna put me in.
Well, if somebody's not gonna go to the effort to opt in, they're gonna ignore it if you do them to opt out, and then you're gonna get the complaints like she said.
Well, my concern is how do they know about mine?
I'm gonna put it in the paper. I will do everything I can to get the word out there.
It'll be a progressive thing, step by step. We're going baby steps now. This thing will increase
Like
its
I'm
time,
opt in
goes on
on
Americans
If we change our mind, once you've started, if only 4,000 people opt in out of 18,000, what happens now?
Rob's gonna door to door.
I mean, besides, I'm gonna say I told you so, what's gonna happen besides that, y'all?
Can we change it?
Yeah.
Can we change it?
Oh, I'm sure we can. That's not, that wasn't like a service fee. That was just like an option. He was like, here, you can do it 2 ways. He said, most people do opt-in, but we also have this other way. It had nothing to do with the price. It didn't affect
I know
anything.
that.
It was just how we wanted to do it.
So if a storm hits, then we can opt out with everybody.
Well, so
Send it out, let
if we
people
do the
agree.
opt-in and we wait, say, 30 days, 60 days, whatever time frame, and we don't see a good response, then we can represent it or reapproach it and look at it.
Sure.
As, okay, we need to do an opt-out.
Yeah, I can bring it back to you guys and say, you know, 1,500 people did it,
All
and
right,
that's it.
we've got a motion, and we've got a second, and we've discussed this thing to death. We're gonna do the opt-in, we're gonna let it run for a little while, see how it works. If it's not performing the way we think it should be, we'll come back and discuss the opt-out. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Good job.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
School
Okay,
zones.
yeah, next item on the agenda is discuss extending school zones at Magnolia Park Elementary to the east, just east of Magnolia Bayou subdivision entrance by Mr. Blackman.
Megan, can you
Yes.
put those pictures for me real quick?
1 second, I had to get out of it.
You want to take these individually?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just do it back to back.
Government Street or Spanish Trail first?
You have Government Street.
Okay.
So I put a couple marks on here, if you can see that. The mark over by Park Road is currently where the eastbound school zone starts, roughly, which is just on the west side of the Park Road overpass. And I've had some feedback, people would like to see it moved back. You can see where it's moved back over, right over the word Government Street. Just to the east of the Magnolia Bayou subdivision entrance.
Overpass over Knapp Road.
Correct, just beyond that road. To start and end that school zone, roughly 100 yards more. A lot of kids and parents park in Magnolia Bayou Circle there and walk their kids to school from there over to Magnolia. And there's been a request to extend it so the traffic will be less because the sidewalk is abutted to the asphalt there along the road.
And you gotta move the flashing signs too?
That'll be remain to be seen. You'll have to get with Alan and see if that's possible. If it's not.
That's a lighted sign there.
It is, well, yeah, down there it is a lighted sign, but I mean, could we start the school zone without a lighted sign? Or does it have to be moved?
That's something like you need to ask, probably ask legal. I can put a sign anywhere you want a
Yeah,
sign.
that's what I'm saying. We can do it real simple or we can make it complex, but.
We just need to find out if we can get less power.
Well,
we get a solar.
where I'm proposing, there's a transformer right there.
Yeah, we can get a drop from it too.
So that's my motion, is to approve extending that school zone at Magnolia Park Elementary, just east of Magnolia Bayou subdivision.
Okay, Mr. Blackman has made a motion.
I'll second
it. Mr. Impey has seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Is this a motion that I can go do that as soon as we can, or is it something?
Well, Robert's got to put together an ordinance change for it to be available at the next meeting for us to vote on.
Then I would go ahead and start,
I'll get stuff
investigating
together.
the.
Yeah.
I know sometimes when y'all move a sign or something, you gotta wait 30 days.
Right, well, if it's 7-0 vote, it take effect immediately at the next meeting, so I'll be ready in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Rob,
Next item.
I was just briefly going to say, I'll have it ready by next meeting. Everyone, and I'm sure you'll all be here, to get that to implement it immediately, we have to have everyone here vote for it. In other words, it's got to be 7-0. If there's only six here, it can't pass.
Not for 30
Next
days.
item on the agenda is discuss extending school zone from Old Spanish Trail from Beachview Drive west to just past Canebrake subdivision entrance.
So same scenario here, the mark on the right of the screen under the word trail is currently where that middle school zone begins. Same scenario, a lot of kids walk from Canebrake, same type of sidewalk, right as butted to the asphalt, and we're proposing moving it back to just beyond Canebrake to the west, right before, after the curve. The cars really speed around that curve, and we could get them slowed down before those kids are walking right there. That would be beneficial.
This does clear up some busting here.
How so?
The length of this school zone.
Well, there again, it's another 100 yards.
Did Hanshaw.
Between Hanshaw and this one, that's pretty big.
Well, we took Hanshaw about half a mile. This was another 100 yards.
You going from the intersection all the way down past.
Well, it's not at the intersection. It's right at the Dollar General.
But we're talking about kids' safety here. I mean, if it takes somebody another 3 or 4 seconds to make it through there, let's slow it down. So, we're talking about safety.
We might have to look at a solar panel.
This is the middle school, this is the middle school.
Okay, are you making a
Well, my motion's gonna be just the same as the other, have Robert go ahead of the ordinance change to extend the school zone on Old Spanish Trail from around Beachview Drive to the west past the Canebrake subdivision.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Blackman.
Second.
Second. Jennifer, any more discussion on this?
I don't see why you're going past Canebrake, why don't you come back to the road at Canebrake?
It's right in that curve, Bobby. That curve is starting to straighten out right there, and there's a lot of heavy traffic going very fast right there. And they can slow it down before the kids come out of Canebrake subdivision. It'd be beneficial.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We need to monitor. We need to monitor the speed on that road anyway. I mean, if the traffic flies on that road, gee, we need to get somebody out there and slow that traffic down. It's dangerous.
Way too dangerous for our officers.
Like Bill used to do, and instead of getting someone that works full-time at Fort Bayou, can I get an officer full-time?
Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda items.
Aye. Full aye.
Yep.
Full aye.
Okay, make a motion on the consent agenda. We're going to discuss item I separately.
Who pulled the eye? Ricky or Bobby? Bobby.
Bobby did.
And I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, except for item I.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. Blackman. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item I on the consent agenda. Okay, this is concerning the run walk permit for Witches Ride of Ocean Springs, Saturday, October 30th.
Right. This is Stephanie. She's the event coordinator for the project, and actually the person that's in charge of it. The only problem that we had was one, we wanted to bring golf carts in, so that created another problem with the waiver, because the golf carts are, as you know, controlled by the city with the sticker, and they have to have insurance and driver's license and all the other things to do it. But when you put them in a parade, that's when we need to know if we can get insurance. Well, when we get insurance, the insurance company says, well, no, they're already insured, so we don't want it to have, but we can insure the event, but not the individual cars. So that's where we are. So I gave the city attorney the two waivers that we've written up, and he's going to review those. So what I'd like to do is ask for y'all to approve this subject to his approval of the waivers, and if we don't need the waivers, then that would even be better. But if we do, I would ask that the attorney draft something that would make it acceptable to y'all.
But Chief, we're not talking about a run walk permit, we're talking about a
No,
golf cart.
this is Witches Ride. This is we'll start there at the old police station, come around to Washington, go down to Government Street, then go all the way to the Mary C and terminate there.
Bicycles also, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a bicycle ride.
Bicycle ride.
Yeah.
But we're going to include the golf carts because there are people that obviously can't ride a bike and would like to ride, plus they have smaller children which cannot ride, so they could ride in a golf cart and be part of it. So we wanted to include everybody in such, and golf carts are such a big part of Ocean Springs now, so we wanted to make sure that they were included.
So we're looking for a motion to approve the permit with proper waivers.
I'd like to hear from Robert on this.
I would need to do a little more looking into this. I would ask not to approve it yet. We're now dealing with golf carts, which are considered under Mississippi law to be vehicles. And you have a whole different set of rules apply now. My understanding is that if I'm wrong, tell me, is that the event could not, the sponsor cannot get insurance to cover anything that happens to anybody in those golf carts.
That's exactly right. The special permit, the special event
liability insurance does not cover any motorized vehicles, because they are considered a motorized vehicle and should have liability insurance of their own. So they suggested, and this is through Lemon Mueller, suggested that a waiver be prepared to sign. That way, they should be insured already to participate. And this is something that they're encountering with businesses anyway, who have golf carts that can't be covered under commercial insurance because they're automobiles. So
I'll have to look at this. A couple of things. If someone signs a waiver or an agreement to defend and indemnify, your own insurance company will not cover that because they don't cover contracts you enter into. And I'm more worried about the child that gets hit that's not part of the golf cart who has no waiver to us, and it wouldn't matter anyhow.
Right.
So I have lots of issues that I would request that I have opportunity to look through.
This event doesn't take place till October 30th, so we've got time to let you look at it and consider alternatives.
Mr. Mayor, when you put vehicles into it, it kind of changes the equation as far as the way I look at it.
no, and I understand. This is just me asking to evaluate and see if it's something that can be done. Thank you.
We just want to have everything covered so that there's not a glitch somewhere.
Okay. We'll do it.
So we appreciate it.
Thanks for the information.
Okay. Thanks.
It would also probably affect the road closure too, Ricky. When we had met about it before, we talked about it, but we didn't know for sure. So the way it's submitted now, it was just for bikers and walkers. So the road closure would get affected.
We're going to hear back from the attorney here on
Next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, City Clerk. Andy?
Motion to approve the docket of claims, all expenditures are appropriate by law and spread the summary upon the minutes.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
I think he's talking about the budget amendments, yes. I got those done, sent them out to you this weekend. They're mainly just cleaning up. We can only do one budget amendment between now. I can't do any more this year. And so anything that looked like I could have any reason it could run over, I had to give it a little bit more money. As you noticed, by the time we decreased the income, decreased the expenses and all, we actually came out like 65,000 to the good. And that's because I was very conservative with the sales tax. And so that's what saved this. I did take out the loan because we had kind of waited on getting the loan till I felt like now we really wanted as prepared as we should be, and I wanted to move it till October. The good news of that was all of the items that had been already purchased through the loan is actually going to be carried through our normal budgets, which will allow us to do more when we get the loans. And so, and once Kelly posts all this, I can start projecting the end of the year balance, but right now, I'm very pleased with where it looks like we're at. Does anybody have any questions about any of the budget amendments? I usually try to put to the side why they happen, or what's going on.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
That helps 100%.
Helps me too.
I dug in and looked at all those numbers. I mean, everything looked clean. It looked like you'd covered all the bases. And, you know, sales taxes continue to trend on an upward curve. I mean, eventually all good things come to an end, but I don't see it in the near future.
Actually, even with this budget amendment, I'm still being a little conservative, because that's just in my nature. Yeah, right. But that's just nice surprises at the end. But even food and beverage, I was conservative, and so overall, I was just very pleased when I got through it Sunday, and I'll report back to y'all when I have a projected end of the year.
Okay, yeah, it looked really good. So we need to go ahead and adopt those.
Yeah.
Make a motion to adopt the budget amendments.
Second.
As presented.
Second by Mr. Cox. Yes, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, so
to you, Carolyn.
Oh, yeah, that's just, you had on your regular agenda a memo, and this replaces that one because we added another project.
Okay, so it says roll call.
So you can, yeah, because it's a resolution. This is the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund applications that are due this month. So over the last 6 months or so, just listing projects that were interested in being funded, and then comparing that with what's eligible or actually recommended under these guidelines, which we really don't have a lot of guidelines yet. Hopefully we will get those soon. But as far as the types of projects, they're leaning towards economic development and some tourism. So the two projects that had been discussed are, and this has come up several times over the last 10 years or so, is creating a wireless mesh, internet mesh in the downtown area, would support festivals, support the small businesses. So I did work with AGJ to get a preliminary idea of what that would cost. So that is included. These, both of these applications will require a 20% match, but it could be done with some sort of in-kind contribution. So that's on that one, we're hoping to work with a private internet provider to provide some of the hardware, or we could work out some sort of agreement with a private provider once they're selected. So that would install the hardware in the area to, and I don't know exactly the words I'm saying, but create the repeaters and the internet connections necessary to create that wireless mesh. So that's the first one. The second one is actually implementing. If you recall, last year we adopted our wayfinding study, which created a template for signage at key locations in different levels. You've got your vehicle, your gateway, your vehicle, pedestrian information, different levels of signage. So during that study, there were two phases that were more critical than the rest, which are primarily the gateways. So those were recommended to go first. And so the application that I'll put together is to request funds for at least that, plus an additional, working down the priority list as far as finding an even spread and finding those critical points. The purpose of it is to reduce some of the confusion. We all know where to go and park. A lot of it would be parking signs, directional to the parking lots that we have that are on occasion underutilized. So those might be the primary, but if we receive the funds, we would work to prioritize those and implement as much of it as we can with the funding available. Those do have a 20% match also, but we can utilize we can provide the materials for installation, and that's usually in our normal budget.
In-kind.
Right, yeah, it would be in-kind materials, not necessarily labor, but definitely the materials should make up 20% of that as well.
These end July 31st.
I have to have these in, yes, I have to have them in next week along with the other GOMESAs that were on there, so I've just given myself 5 more applications to do. I'm sorry?
Both of them require 20%.
Both of these two do, yes. And so the portal that I have to submit through is pretty specific on it's a pretty detailed or complex application process, but they do require this resolution. And I wanted to put it on there and get your individual votes recorded because those resolutions that are voted on unanimously carry more weight than others. So, no pressure, but if it's not unanimous, it won't be as strong of an application. It could be private, yeah, and that's the good thing about, I mean, even on the wayfinding, if we needed some, some coordination with private properties to put some of the signage, that can be a contribution that can be considered. So, yeah, it can be private. It can't be service related. So just on the wireless mesh, whatever provider we selected could not give us a free year of service. That's not eligible. But they could maybe, there's a lot of other labor, installation, things that we would typically pay for that probably would qualify. Hardware itself, if that was donated at cost or whatever the savings is that they gave us, that might be able to be. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it. So that's why it just says a contribution by a private provider to be determined.
So
but yeah.
Get the private provider, Patty?
well, that's,
We're
if,
so busy, I don't
no,
think about it.
if we were awarded the funds, we would engage a private provider in the same way that any other professional services, whether it's through an RFQ or just sitting down with different providers. That would be something that we would address if we receive the funds. Yeah.
No harm in applying.
No harm in applying.
So I'll make a motion, we adopt a resolution to authorize the application for projects eligible for money from the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund, downtown wireless mesh and wayfinding signage implementation.
Second by Mr. Blackman, second by Mr. Cox. We need a roll call. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Now you know what I'll be doing the next week, so.
Okay. Public comment.
I just want to point out too that I knew it was on here somewhere. It's under
Yeah.
consent, but this will give us the authority to go after the American Rescue Plan Act. Once the mayor signs off, Kelly will set that up and we should receive the first half, which is gonna be around $2 million.
Right.
That will go in a separate bank account.
And it was on consent, but the other point of interest is the additional bond that we will be receiving in October. So that was on there, the acceptance for that, and then like Patty said, the CARES. So a lot of funding.
Okay, this time of the agenda, we'll accept public comments on anything from the audience. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes each person for a total of 30 minutes. Anybody like to address the board? Okay. Alderman's forum. Start with Ms. Burgess.
Just really quickly, I want to thank Alan very much for taking a lot of time out of his day to ride with you through Ward 1 and discuss all the issues that we have and addressing them. Stephen, thank you so much for your time as well. I did speak with Robert about the animal ordinance. We're going to have that language cleaned up for the next meeting. And Megan, you got my spreadsheet.
I did.
For my monthly work orders.
It was great, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And Carolyn did a study that came in for Nottingham. I do want to go back over that with you if I can.
Yeah.
Another day, just kind of get my hands around that. And then we're going to follow up on the other ones that we have in place throughout the ward.
Yeah, and especially like, I know Kevin, not familiar with this, we had requested a speed study just like we did for Calhoun on some areas in Ward 1, the first of which was Nottingham. So we'll go over it and then Jennifer can come back and make a request if there's a stop sign or something else that needs to be considered. But GRPC usually does their counts. They go out on a periodic basis and so they do a lot of counts in July. So if there is any streets in your ward that you need that type of information, I can always check with them to see what they have on tap. And if not, we can request it, but they're not going to really do a lot of new ones in July other than they got the Nottingham ones done. But on a regular basis, if that's, they work with us very well.
Thank you for that. That's all I have.
Alan, so the guy that was on the sidearm now, is that Marks?
Yeah, he's transferred to Parks.
So how long do you think before we can start? I know we're getting a lot of rain and stuff, but I know that they can do that sidearm and on those asphalt streets.
I got somebody training on it now.
How long do you think it'll be before we can get started with that?
Like turn him loose and let him go?
Well, I mean, just to start getting some of these streets, I mean, with all the rain we've been having, I mean, the shrubs are really encroaching on the road.
I'll cut some next week. I mean, I'll cut it if I need to.
Okay. Well,
It's no big deal.
I was just wondering, so the guy's already over there.
I got somebody I've been training on. He was in today for a little while. I'm gonna work with him a couple hours every day. Plus Jason, I'll work with him another week. The one that's transferred.
Okay.
So hopefully next week after, we'll be ready to turn loose.
There's people complaining about that cars getting scratched and stuff. Who was it that talked about getting the monument, the fix about the corner by the Circle K with all the rotten wood and stuff? Was that you, Patty?
Yeah, I didn't realize we had a way to do it. I have not put a work order in with Tom and him, and because Alan was telling me we have a way to live. The chief and him were kind enough to go on top and fix the I don't know what all that's about. But we just need to put a work order in. Can you do that, Al, and have Tom and them look and see if we can replace?
The soffit and fascia?
Yeah, it's.
It looks bad.
Needs to be cleaned and painted up too also.
That should be able to do that.
I would think so.
I've been told we have something that'll get that high besides the fire truck, because they'd use a ladder.
The man lift, we'll move it from the Ford over there.
And the last thing is, Steven, who takes care of the Coke machine at the tennis course? The same people that take care of it here at City Hall?
Yes, sir.
Because they said it's been empty over there.
I get somebody
And
over
so,
there.
I don't know what time they're trying to go over there, but we need to figure that out. And if they're not gonna service it, then we just need to get a Pepsi machine or something. Somebody's gonna take care of it.
Mr. Wade? Okay, Mr. Cox, down on Holcomb Boulevard where C Spire did their underground wiring, we need to get them to come back and backfill some of the holes because they're sinking next to the sidewalk.
Okay.
And then fix that sidewalk on the school property and left all the
dirt.
Well, they left the wood. They broke the form down and just left them laying there. We can get somebody to clean all that up.
Where at?
On Holcomb Boulevard.
Okay.
Next to East Elm, or Oak Park, and the road. So on both sides. Yeah. But both, I mean, that whole ditch needs to be looked at. Especially where I called you a while back about that barrel, all that needs to be. When they dug that up, they probably had an 8-foot hole there. And then, just curious, the traffic counters on Holcomb, is that GRBC?
Probably, yeah, they do it periodically at primary. Where on Holcomb were they?
Right by the church.
Okay.
Just south of the church.
Yeah, yeah, they have a system that they rotate them around on an annual basis, so, or semi-annual basis.
And then with all the rain we've had, the grass is going crazy. And I know it's been hard to find temporary grass cutters. What is our game plan to catch up on this grass? Do we need to look at putting some of these main streets out and trying to bring in some crews outside lawn services?
I'm not sure about outside lawn service because some of it is so wet.
Get caught up, they can get out there with weed eaters or something. Now it's gonna take forever to get caught up, they're so long. And the edging of the roadway, I mean, I don't see your guys being able to catch up without that temporary help, because we didn't get any in.
It's probably not a bad idea. As soon as it dries up enough, we can cut. But we may want to start lining up some folks just to see if they'd be interested in doing that with us.
I'll do that. I'll talk to
Turn
them.
it loose.
I would love to hire a couple of groups to give them main roadways or something, because, I mean, I'd like to see the roadway edged and cleaned up rather than just bush hogged.
All right.
That's all I've got.
Mr. Payne?
Thanks, Alan, for what you've done in the Ward 4. Appreciate it. The citizens do. Thank you. That's all I have, sir.
Mr. Black?
I'm good, Mayor, thank you.
I don't have.
Okay. All right. That concludes the meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Very good.
Pretty good adjournment, been on 2 hours.
It's those presentations at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah, for one for the
Chiefs only got box Chiefs is only got box
Yeah, that's the mix of my name.
Smoke detector? Messed it up. We got some.
So the firefighters came over there and great, and they took it down, but my mom doesn't want to wire it in.